Several days ago, Hyundai and Kia both released their sales figures for last year. And in today's video, we'll take a look at it and kind of see how things ended up after the craziness that was 2025. Now let's start out with the bad news. Kia's EVs had a horrendous year. Kia as a company, however, had a fairly great year. They broke their sales record. They sold more cars in the US than they ever have before. 852,155 units versus 2024, which was also a record-breaking year, where they sold 796,488. So that's a huge improvement overall in terms of total car sales. But Kia's EVs down big time. EV9 sales down 32% versus 2024. And hold your hats for this one. Kia EV6 sales down 40% versus 2024. Yikes. So for 2025, Kia only sold 15,051 EV9s versus 22,017 in 2024. And for EV6, 12,933 for 2025 versus 21,715 for 2024. Now, as bad as this looks right here, when you compare it to Hyundai's sales numbers, it looks even worse. Ioniq 5 had an amazing year. Sales up 6%, so 47,039 units versus 44,400 units in 2024. Ioniq 6, unfortunately, down 15% to only 10,478 units versus 12,264 for the 2024 model year. And Ioniq 9 just went on sale this summer, and they only sold 5,189 units for the year. So for every Kia EV6 sold, Hyundai sold 4 Ioniq 5s. That's like not even in the same ballpark. And I honestly don't really know what the issue is with Kia's EV6 that they sold so few compared to Ioniq 5. On paper, relatively similar cars. Obviously, they look very different, but the software is all the same, charging's all the same, so kind of odd. I have heard that Kia's lease deals weren't as good as Ioniq 5 throughout the year, so maybe that's the big factor there, is that people compared the two and we're getting awful offers. So when comparing the EVs in each company's lineup, you kind of get to see a really big difference. So for Hyundai's lineup, the Ioniq 5 sold better than 5 other models in the lineup. 4 cars if you remove the Hyundai Nexo, their hydrogen car that they sold a whopping 5 units of in 2025 in the US. And then when you look at Kia's lineup, the EV6 and the EV9 were both of their worst selling cars for the year. And because of this, this might be one of the big reasons why we're not seeing the EV4 after all come to the US, and who knows about EV3 and EV5 at this point. As a company, Hyundai also broke their own sales record. So for 2025, 901,686 cars versus 836,802 for 2024. So an 8% increase. Hyundai's closing on quick on selling 1 million cars in the US for the first time ever. And there's a fairly good chance that they're going to do that in 2026. Now, something I was really interested to see is how sales rebound after the tax credit ended at the end of September. And when you look at a graph of Ioniq 5 sales in the US, they've been steadily increasing since October, where they just plummeted off a cliff. And they're kind of starting to level back out to where they were in January of 2025, February of 2025. So they're really not as bad as people thought they were going to be after the tax credit ended. And that'll be really interesting to see how that tracks throughout the rest of 2026. Now, unfortunately, I don't have any Genesis sales numbers for GV60, electrified GV70, or electrified G80 for the year of 2025, but they're not even going to stand a chance versus Hyundai or Kia. I mean, they're a drop in the bucket overall. And while we're talking about Genesis, there's something I wanted to clarify from a video a few weeks ago where I kind of talked about what was coming in the future for Genesis. And I had mentioned that electrified GV70 production had ended in the US, like right after they started manufacturing it. I was able to get a statement from Genesis, and they said, Genesis has temporarily paused assembly of the electrified GV70 at Hyundai Motor Manufacturing, Alabama, as we optimize our production plans. Electrified GV70 production is planned to resume for the U.S. market, with details to be announced at a later date. The electrified GV70 remains available at U.S. retailers at this time without disruption. Along with the GV60 SUV, Genesis will continue to offer an EV lineup that meets the needs of U.S. consumers. So there is currently no production of electrified GV70, but it sounds sounds like they plan on restarting that at some point in the future. When that is, who knows? So 2025 is in the history books. Kia had an awful year while Hyundai had a fantastic year. It's really strange to see such a big difference between the two companies. So anyway, guys, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. If you like today's video, give it a thumbs up. Check out my store at ioniqguy.com for accessories for your Hyundai, Kia, or Genesis EV. All sorts of cool stuff there. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, everybody.